Streaming on the Tide 100.9 HD2 Northport.
And W265CG Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome to the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. That's the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9. It's time to get into the weekend review. Of course, it's game week. The old song pops in my head. It's the final countdown as we head toward week number 1 on Tide 100.9 and the Martin Houston Show. So we want to encourage you to stick with us all week as we'll be looking for players of the week, who you think is going to be the players of the game, your MVP, and we'll, of course, have some contests rolling out this week, and I'll give you the specifics on that here in a moment, and you can pick your players. So you have to stay tuned all morning, all week to know how to get in on winning the contest. So stay tuned for that as well. Of course, like I said, it'll be a weekend review. There was some ball games. I love marketing, as I said last week. We now have week 0 versus week 1. Of course, the shocker of the week may be SEC team going out and absolutely annihilating Hawaii, talking about Vandy. And, of course, now Vandy is the darling of the SEC. Maybe slow your roll a little bit on that, but kudos to Vandy getting off to a great start for the season. Lots of big news, of course, some not so good. We'll be talking about that in just a moment as well. And anything else you want to get to this week that has to do with, we're finally here. The hay is almost in the barn for week 1 as Alabama prepares to take on Utah State, and we'll follow them. Alabama has a couple chances to take down the Aggies as they will start the revenge tour, meaning heading toward Texas A&M and Georgia. Of course, we'll look at the SEC schedule this week and try to break down what games we may like to see and who we think is going to win. All of that and more right here on the Martin Houston Show. And as we do each and every day, we'd like to invite you in on the conversation at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. So it is open for business for you to get your thoughts in right now. Or you can post on chat via the social media outlets, which includes on the Martin Houston Radio Network at Martin Houston fan page, Martin J. Houston Personal, Alabama Tradition, Tide 109, X and O Sports, all on Facebook, YouTube, Martin Houston Live, and at Martin Houston 35 on Twitter. Talking about a great follow, I give you 3 of them at Tide 109, at Martin Houston 35, and at X's O's Sports, XSOS Sports. All great follows on Twitter. So Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Speaking of wanting to see, you don't get to necessarily see him, but you get to hear his voice. Mr. Joe Gaither, producer extraordinaire and host of Cup of Joe, that airs right here on Top 100.9. Back in the saddle today, giving Mason a little morning reprieve. Good morning, Joe. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing great. Great to be here, especially for week one. So excited to get the week started off right with you guys.
Absolutely. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. Ready for football.
Ready for football. Absolutely. So, hey, listen, Joe, something that a lot of stations don't do is, first of all, give away content for free. And number two, even less, I shouldn't say just stations, but with Top 100.9, you get the airwaves, you get the digital, you get the web page. So there's a lot going on at Top 100.9. And, of course, we're definitely hitting high school football as a part of that. So quick rundown from you guys. You guys know that probably a little bit better than I do. Any game from this past weekend jump out at you, X? And I'll ask you the same question, Joe, from the high school ranks.
Yeah, I covered the ACATA game. It's the first time these two schools played in 30 years, back when they were both AISA. TAE was not able to put up much of a fight. ACA won 35-0. But yeah, so it was a little bit of a blowout there. But yeah, ACA's got a good team, young quarterback, Kai Young, who looks like he's a big playmaker.
All right. Any of them jump out at you, Joe?
Well, I was out at Hillcrest, so I saw Ethan Crawford rush for 5 touchdowns against Armwood, Florida. That was a fun matchup to be at, and fun game to be at. But really what stands out to me over the weekend was Bibb County going to Gordo and really putting a hurt on Gordo. You know, Gordo losing Ryan Lawley and Tanner Bailey. They've had to replace a lot for this year, but Bibb County really looking strong after 2 weeks.
Yeah, they are, and that's going to be one of the big matchups this week, and we may see if we can get Coach Lawley on for Friday morning. We'll see if we can get him on as the Hillcrest Patriots will take on the Northridge Jaguars. So we'll let you know about that. Of course, the real quick of it is County High got another big win. Of course, they have not stepped up into their region yet, but hey, confidence in the high school, college level is paramount. So kudos to them for getting off to a 2-0 start, and hopefully that program is beginning to make a bounce back. It'll be good to see County High relevant in the football world. So. Just a couple other quick news stories that happened around the weekend. You guys can always, of course, comment, stop me, etc. Even though we've never seen him step on the field and really hadn't heard him talk a lot about Alabama freshman Emmanuel Henderson already inking a deal. NIL. Got to be excited for these guys, Joe and Xavier, making a little money. That's an interesting pick with, you never know what makes people pick different players. A couple weeks ago, you saw Milroe get a few hits, and you kind of wonder if these brands, Joe, are smart. They're jumping out there, guys, getting these guys that they think are going to project for 2 or 3 years, because that's where you're going to get your money worth, right? If you can get one of these freshmen or two to jump out there.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to go. You're going to build a brand through a player, and you want to get a guy that you could have for multiple years.
Yeah, without a doubt. A couple other quick round the bend, round the horn thing. I know Alabama folks, hold on, we're going to get to Alabama football, but a couple quick stories around there. Jacksonville State uh, just demolished Stephen F. Austin. So, Rich Rod got off to a good start. Still referred to by me as the greatest snub in football for the sake of the Bama fans. So, without a doubt, that been a big story. And then, of course, coming a little bit closer to home, Nick Saban, of course, we're going to talk about Kobe Prentice in a moment. Is he going to be that breakout player this week? Alan Green, Alan Green at Auburn out. We can talk about that from the weekend. And, of course, several other big stories, but none bigger, unfortunately, from the negative side than B-Rob, former Alabama football player, projected starter for the Washington Commanders, shot in what appears to be an attempted carjacking. Praying for a speedy recovery for him. But guys, thoughts, comments on that impact of that news right there. X, start with you.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to hear that, especially when you add what's going on with this rookie class so far from Alabama. John Mechie last month getting diagnosed with leukemia, and then this happened. And luckily for both of these guys, nothing it appears to be too serious. Praying for quick recovery for Mechie and B-Rob, and hopefully they can get back on the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, Martin, just a huge shock, Xavier and Martin, yesterday afternoon, kind of chilling on a Sunday, and you get the news coming across your phone that Brian Robinson's been shot. What? So really thankful that it's non-life threatening, and you saw Ron Rivera say he's visited with them already, and the Commanders, have put out a statement saying that he's stable, but just asking for privacy at the moment. Just terrible thing. Hopefully his recovery doesn't take too long, and it doesn't have it doesn't really have a setback for his career.
Yeah, and that's the part we don't know yet, guys, and that's my prayer as well, because it was in the lower extremities. It's not life threatening, but that doesn't mean it's not career threatening, and that's what's kind of been my prayer as I think about it, because when you start messing with those legs and nerves and all that type of stuff, so we're praying for speedy and complete recovery. And unfortunately, like I said, young man, guys, would he kind of be your surprise of the year so far from the Bama guys? Went into camp, did his work, and was gonna be a projected starter. Was the starter, was projected as the starter as they were winding down camp.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. It was within 30 minutes of finding out that he was most likely going to be named the starter. That this news comes out, he gets shot.
Yeah, so very, very unfortunate. But please continue to lift Brian Robinson, former Hillcrest Patriot and Alabama Crimson Tide, up in your prayers. Had a neat experience this weekend. I hadn't been to an NFL stadium in 30 years since I was actually in a uniform, but this weekend went up to Tennessee Titans versus the Arizona Cardinals to pick up my daughter from her trip. She was interning with the Cardinals as an athletic trainer, and it was pretty neat. Derrick Henry is as big as advertised. He didn't play, but I could sit on the Cardinals sideline and clearly pick him out on the other sideline as he walked around in the hat and gear, but not playing. And hey, guys, Kyler Murray is as tall as he said he is. He just has really short arms. I was looking at him like, how the dude is actually, because I thought they've been hyping up his height. But anyway, that's just a quick sidebar from the past week. Anyway, hey, it's week one. You're welcome to get in on the conversation. coming back on the other side, hey, you can get your player of the game to win the prize. We'll start giving you the details of the prize pack as we move throughout the season. But what I'm looking for in week one, might as well come out with it. Let's start off with Gibbs. I need you to tell me Gibbs rushing yards, total rushing yards, and the tiebreaker. Let me see what would be a good tiebreaker is how many yards receiving he will have. So total rushing yards for Gibbs is how you enter, and the actual number of receiving yards is the tiebreaker. You can get in on that at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline, or you can post your answer in chat. More Alabama Week 1 conversation coming up next.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, everything pretty quiet on the roadways on this Monday morning. Do drive carefully, and if you see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. Get into the month's savings now at Townsend Nissan. Extra money for your trade-in, too. I'm Captain Ray.
Free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes AutoZone America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Football's just around the corner, and Mr. Bill's Southern Diner has made tailgating as easy as ABC because we'll already be cooking. Here in the college football capital of the world, we know what tailgating should look like. We have smoked wings, tenders, pulled pork, fall-off-the-bone ribs, burger bars, potato bars, and lots of sides to choose from like our famous tricolor baked beans, mac and cheese, Texas chili, cranberry apple coleslaw, and desserts that are crazy good. Plus, we can pack your cooler with drinks and ice. Guarantee a win for your tailgating or home party by pre-ordering your favorite so they'll be ready for kickoff. Call 205-333-9312 for details. Roll Tide.
Everyone, who's manning the front tonight?
Big E's nightclub needs a bouncer with a military background.
Dougie, I need you to keep eyes on the back.
Security who lays down the no when the unts get too intense.
That Swedish DJ duo is back tonight. Y'all remember last time.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The world is always on, but you shouldn't be. Put junk sleep to bed. During Mattress Firm's Labor Day sale, get a king for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin. And save up to $700 on ceiling. Talk to a sleep expert and unjunk your sleep today. Mattress Firm.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Another hot, humid day today. The sky partially sunny. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will likely form this afternoon and this evening. The high today 91, tonight's low 73. Tomorrow morning, sunshine, a few scattered storms by afternoon. The high at 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 75 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Softmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at softmarkdesign.com.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9. The Alabama One hotline is open for business, 205-342-9904. The weekly contest is Gibbs total rushing yards and tiebreaker is receiving yards. We already got Curtis Lewis on the board with 75 rushing yards and 46 receiving yards. Let's get to Pat. Pat, you're in with the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning. Hey, I want to start a grassroots campaign this morning for the 4-star for Mr. B. Hubbard out of a place over there, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. He played Clinton High School, which is a proverbial powerhouse high school in the state of Mississippi, and he had 300 all-purpose yards, close enough for government work, 148 rushing and 146 or so passing. Is that not an incredible performance?
It sounds like it. I of course did not get to see it, but it sounds like he had a balanced attack.
Yeah. Well, see, he's the reigning state 6A Mississippi Mr. Football too. As a junior, he made that against even all the seniors. And hey, I mean, kid's a football player, kind of like Denny Sinceri was. You know, Denny was a Mr. Football up in North Carolina, and but as a junior or junior, I think, and he's a football player regardless of what position he plays. And but anyway, just wanted to we got to get that 4-star for him. It helps out our recruiting class too. Hey, look, listen, can I get in on this contest? We want to call back tomorrow.
You can enter it all week.
Okay, let's talk about it tomorrow. Let somebody else talk. But
all right.
But hey, we got to get that 4-star for that boy though. All right, have a good one, Martin. Bye-bye.
All right, Pat. If he continues to play like he played that 4-star, I'm sure that star will come. Let's bring in Robert from Mobile. Robert, you're in with the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, man.
Hey, now.
I watched 2 games. I watched 2 games in week 0 that stuck out to me. Of course, after watching that Nebraska game, I kept thinking, well, no matter how bad things get, at least we're not Nebraska fans. And so at least that's not much going for it. No matter what happens, at least you're not a Nebraska fan. Those people are miserable.
Let me ask you a question. Is Scott Frost right now potentially the most disappointing head coach out there after the success he had at UCF and what he's been able to do at Nebraska?
Oh, no doubt. The problem with Nebraska fans is they have memories of back in the 80s and early 90s when, they would destroy a team like Northwestern by, 60 points? And so those thoughts are still in their heads, and they just can't do that anymore. It's like, wow, I put a little bet on that game thinking, well, you clobbered them last year. First game of the season, neutral site, of course you're going to beat them by the point spread. Then I watched the game.
Now, here's an interesting. I know you didn't call just to talk about Nebraska, but supposedly he was told one of his conditions. It sounds so familiar. What's interesting to the Shula situation here, he was told he had to hire a special teams coach. Okay, that to keep his job last year, coming into this season. And the one thing that he did Saturday that probably cost them the game was call an onside kick when they were up by 11. So was that him? Was that him just testing? Well, I mean, I don't even know how you explain that, especially considering that's what he was told to do to keep his job.
And against Northwestern, you're not calling an onside kick because you're so surprised you're up by 11 points against Ohio State. To keep that momentum going. Just against Northwestern, dude. Yeah. It was my fault. Second one, of course, I watched was the Utah State game. And oh my goodness, against UConn, if Alabama didn't have this team beat by 20 points in the first quarter, I'll be disappointed. This game should not even be. I mean, it should be begin halftime. It should be over in the first quarter. And talking about running, I want Bryce Young to get the reps in with the receiver, early and often. But goodness gracious, Utah State is just begging to be run on for 300 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're committing a crime if you don't do it.
Well,
wow.
Something we haven't talked about, guys, is what would be the impact of this Alabama team? This is the first time in a while that Alabama wasn't like driven because of the name on the jersey in the offseason for week 1. And then after seeing week 0, you kind of wonder how focused these guys will be even this week.
Right.
Do you see that potentially having any carryover into the season at all? Maybe this team starting off a little slower than would be anticipated.
Nick Saban will probably have to go into one of his rants this week because of because of the expectation that they'll clobber this team by as many points as they choose. So to get the team hyped up to play them. So I look for him to go off into a rant over next to nothing, because that's kind of what this game should turn out to be. Especially after watching what they saw Saturday. I mean, how can a team watch film on his team, watch them UConn push them around, and not think that we could play our C game, we can still push them around. So, yeah, I look for a Nick Saban rant to try to keep the team motivated to clobber this team like they should.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you got any offers up for Gibbs this week? Rushing yards and tiebreaker receiving yards?
Yeah, of course. Whatever he gets, he's going to have to do it quick because he'll be out quick. So I think despite that he'll probably play, maybe 2.5 quarters at the most, I think he'll still get 135 yards rushing and maybe another 50 yards passing.
All right. Appreciate you, Robert.
All right, man.
All right. Hey, that's Robert from Mobile, giving his thoughts there. Guys, any comments on either one of those topics before we get to break?
Yeah, when you look at Gibbs, that's a scary thing because of what UConn was able to do. I don't think he'll play long, but he's going to probably break one. And if he breaks one, that's really going to throw this number off.
He could easily break if he plays a quarter. See that here's and let's carry this conversation into the second half. Going into this game, how could playing Utah State backfire in week 2? How could playing Utah State backfire in week 2 for the Crimson Tide? We'll talk about that right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. That conversation on the other side. Remember this, Alabama One, your choice for your financial needs, your financial solutions. Great promotions always going on, but right now specifically, more cash for your car, more buck for your truck, fighting inflation and fighting rising interest rates. We're on your team, and we can help you get across the goal line. And that, if your goal is 1.99 interest rate for 36 months, as low as 1.99, or if your goal is to get that payment as low as possible on a used vehicle, we can go up to 84 months. And if it's a new vehicle, we can go up to as many as 96 months. Whatever your goal is, we'll help you get across the goal line with Alabama One in that auto loan. Other great options there is no pay for 60 days and some cash back available as well. Go to alabama1.org. That's alabama1.org. And while you're there, also check out the insurance rates as well. We'll be glad to quote you on that. That's alabama1.org.
This is a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update.
I'm Kim Rankin with your Tide Sports Update. The Alabama Crimson Tide football team had 19 selections to the 2022 preseason coaches All-SEC team, including 6 to the first team. Both are league highs. The Houston Texans have officially placed John Mechie III on the reserve non-football injury list. The Baltimore Ravens have released Slade Bolden.
This has been a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update. Run it again! For more info on these stories and more, download the Tide 100.9 app.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Overflow Express Wash. Their mission is to provide great customer service with a showroom clean car and an exceptional customer service experience. They have the basic car wash that starts at $7, but you need to check out the premium wash packages, which start as low as $12 and go up to $20. They also have a membership wash club that you can get for starting at $23.99, going up to $39.99. In other words, just double the regular premium package, drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and I keep our cars looking good inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard right next door to Alabama 1, or you can find them online at overflowexpresswash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team.
Long weekends are all about getting a little you time. And at the Home Depot, you time means you building, you drilling, you doing, you recharging, you saving, and you going back for more. Do Labor Day your way and get a free 18-volt battery with select Milwaukee Power Toolkit purchases at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our Pep Talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com. That's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
You're back in. We're kicking off the week number 1 game week, the final countdown to the 2022 run for a championship by the Alabama Crimson Tide. Starts off with Utah State Aggies. Then you got Texas, La Monroe, and Vanderbilt. 4 teams, should be 4 wins before we face the Arkansas Razorbacks. Guys, let's talk a little bit about, this is a different start to a season. As you look at this 2022 season, Robert from Mobile said he felt like Saban would go on a rant this week because of the opponent that Curtis Moore, the second, actually sent something in earlier. Martin, interesting that you picked out Gibbs. The UConn Huskies had all caps big success running over the Utah State defense. Imagine what Alabama could do running the ball against the Utah State defense. Laugh out loud. And Robert, like I said, Robert said that he felt like that there's going to be a rant coming. Curtis Lewis said, I don't expect Saban to rant because he feels like this team will be mature enough to take care of business. Guys, do you see this Utah State game kicking off the season potentially having impacted Alabama in it all this offseason and rolling into week 2? What could be a negative from it?
Honestly, no, not with the way this team has responded to everything from the end of last season. This team is motivated. They're going to be pushing and going after everybody. And I think the leaders on this team aren't going to let the opponent dictate their level of play.
Joe?
I mean, I'm with Xavier there. I think that all eyes are kind of on that Texas game, and I think that for the Tide, they're going to be interested to knock out Utah State early, so that they can move on to Texas. So I don't think it's going to be a letdown for week 1, but I do think that most of the focus is going to be on week 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like this first time in a while, we've kind of not had the big week 1 build up. Whether we knew we beat Miami or not, at least they had a sticker on their helmet that made you at least pay attention. The only thing about Utah is the fact that they happen to be the Aggies. So maybe the Alabama Crimson Tide will have a flashback moment just because of the name. But here's my question: that this is going to be an interesting game, guys. One of the things that happens in football is you cannot simulate game conditions in practice, meaning the conditioning required. And in week 1, how long do you expect Alabama to play? I mean, really, if I was saying, plus or minus 2.5 quarters, what would you guys say?
I'd say plus, just for the simple fact it's week 1. Coach Saban is going to want to get these guys prepared for Texas, which could be a longer, more intense game.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus as well. I say they're probably going to play almost even three full quarters, and I bet they play nearly 3-4 quarters, and then you start seeing some backups in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, which then makes this a very interesting game because you almost are forced to play that long, right? Normally, if this was like our before Auburn game, end of the season type of matchup, then you would be like, well, they're probably going to play, first half and then they're out of there, But at the beginning of the season, you have to get reps. You cannot simulate it, and so it's going to be interesting to watch this game, which means that most of the time, a lot of times Alabama won't cover on games like this, right? Because Saban isn't going to try to run up the score. But since it's the first game of the season, this may be the first time we see Alabama literally. I mean, he's going to. How is he going to slow it down? Is he going to run the ball to slow it down? Is he going to throw? I mean, what is he going to do to slow it down? And could we see this game absolutely get? That may be what we need to do from a score prediction contest later this week is how many points will this Alabama Crimson Tide team score, guys? Because they have to get some conditioning. And Coach Lewis saying they'll play the first series of the third quarter. Will that have them ready to play for Texas? The wild card in this scenario of how this season starts, because I think that Arkansas is going to be like our first potential big challenge, right? But Texas could be a wild card. Texas could be much improved. And if Texas is much improved and Alabama doesn't play a whole lot in week 1 and it gets down to a third, fourth quarter game, could it come back to bite us, X?
Yeah, that's why I can't agree with that with Curtis. I just think this team has to play longer. Now, what you might see is a deeper rotation, but those ones will be out there longer. You might see a couple more wide receivers than you would normally, and maybe an extra running back. But these guys are going to have to get a lot of reps in this week one.
And that's what I would say to X is I think you'll see the rotation be a deeper rotation. But I think he'll play them just for them to be out there running in the heat for an extended period of time, coming out of a halftime where they have to. I don't know if you'll have to make adjustments or not. Normally at halftime you make adjustments, and you like to see your starters come out after the second half and make adjustments and see how they do with those adjustments against Utah State. I don't know how much that is. So it's going to be new and different for Alabama as we look forward to Saturday's game. Guys, who do you have right now kind of as that guy that you think is going to just pop right off the page? Outside of the obvious Bryce Young, we've had Jahmyr Gibbs. Who's going to be that next guy on the offensive side of the ball, you think, Saturday?
I think Burton's going to pop. We're going to get to see him be the number one and see what type of relationship and rapport he's built with Bryce. But outside of the main guy, I think you can see Prentice pop. I think you see one of the other running backs have a very solid game, either Jace Roydell.
Joe?
I think it's going to be Trayshawn Holden. I'll push back on you a little bit, Xavier. I mean, Burton is probably going to have himself a nice game, but I think Trayshawn Holden is going to emerge as that next best option for Bryce Young in the passing game.
Okay, so that brings to an interesting question I asked Friday, Joe. Who you see as the first group out, with the wide receivers based on what you just said?
I think it's going to be Burton, it's going to be Holden, and it's probably going to be Prentice in the slot.
So you think Holden has supplanted Brooks?
I do. I do.
Okay, because I had Prentice. So and Holden jumped into the rotation after not into the rotation. He had a couple really big practices and a big scrimmage after JoJo Earl went down, but that was so a lot of people were thinking that was kind of the slot, and I was like, man, I don't see Holden as a slot guy. Big body receiver kind of on the outside. So you have Holden being that guy on the outside. We're going to go to break here, and X, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that, because my follow-up question is going to be, do you think Prentice runs out there with the number one group as a starter, as a true freshman at the wide receiver position, and is he that next man up as the great line of Alabama wide receiver? So, hey, if you have a different opinion, a different three, and then hey, what is Alabama going to do about the tight end position? How could that impact the game? We'll start that conversation on the other side. Probably won't get to all of it this morning, but we'll start it. We'll talk Alabama football all week long as the final countdown to week one has begun right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, everything pretty quiet on the roadways on this Monday morning. Do drive carefully, and if you see conditions, give me a call, 205-886-8886. Get into the month's savings now at Townsend Nissan. Extra money for your trade-in, too. I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. Former Hillcrest High, Alabama, and current Washington Commanders rookie running back Brian Robinson Jr. was shot Sunday when someone apparently attempted to rob him, or it was an attempted carjacking. Authorities are not totally sure. D.C. police say Robinson suffered 2 non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. Robinson had apparently won the starting running back position during an impressive preseason. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage. It's free. Don Hartwick, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. If you're looking for a way to add value to your home, make your flower beds pop, make your landscaping stand out from your neighbors, then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help you do just that. They have numerous styles, but they feature the Moroccan Stone Curb series, which includes 4 great styles and unlimited color choices. That's Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. They are the one that can help you stand out from your neighbors. Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, 205-331-6823. You may also find yourself with the need for a custom size stone or custom shaped stone. Then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help with that as well. Paul Fuller and his team are waiting on your call right now for that free quote. And if you tell them that Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show told you to stop by, you'll get a big discount. So call Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing at 205-331-6823 or visit them online at Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, LLC.
Well, Lentil Lift is Sunday, our new sponsor. We appreciate them taking time to be on our show. What is your lintel? It's the load-bearing structure just above the garage door. Over the years, the weight of the bricks above a garage door put pressure on the structure. The pressure eventually causes the bricks to crack. Lentil Lift, it has a solution, and it works without having to rebuild the entire garage door area. That's pretty darn important. After countless hours of research, testing, Lentil Lift has developed the most efficient and economical method of repairing sagging and hermetic garage entrals. The strongest permanent repair solution you can get, and you can only get it from Lentil Lift. Dan, the Lentil man, who I'll talk about in just a minute, does a great job. You can call him. Lentil Lift will install steel beams that go across the top of your garage door to permanently prevent lintel from sagging at all. These beams are pre-engineered to lift specific weight ranges to straight plane. Contact Lentil Lift today and get a free quote. 205-858-LIFT, 205-858-5438.
Hey, thanks for coming over, Jake from State Farm. Couldn't say no, Pablo. I love me some vinyl. Well, my budget doesn't. Calling time on my vinyl collecting. Whoa! Don't give up what you love. State Farm has options like insuring your home and ride with great rates on both. Ooh, that's music to my ears. All right, spin that vinyl. For surprisingly great rates, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
You're back in with the home of Alabama sports, Tide 100.9. Hey, listen, there's no reason to ask who you think is going to win this weekend in terms of Alabama and Utah. So we're not even going to have that conversation, really. The question will be how bad, how many points will Alabama score this week, and how many points will the Aggies score against this Alabama defense? Will they set the bar high as they go into week 1 against Utah State? As we were going to break there, we were having some conversation around who's going to be the first 3 receivers out there. Curtis Lewis and Burton, Leary and Brooks. So he has 2 guys different than you, Joe. X, who's your first 3?
Burton, Brooks, and Holden. I think Holden could be that Cooper Kupp type slot receiver, the big body who can do a lot of damage over the middle.
Interesting. I guess the reason I'm thinking Prentice in that slot spot. And of course, I think you could see possibly Saban do his thing where he lets an older guy get in there before a younger guy. But Holden wasn't making that noise before JoJo went down. Prentice has been popping since he stepped foot on campus. So I'm going to ask you, Joe, why do you feel so strongly about Holden and X? And I'm going to circle back to you. Why do you think Holden has jumped in front of Prentice?
I don't really have a whole lot of like hard and fast X's and O's. This is why I'm just pulling for Trayshawn Holden the most.
I get it.
Out of everybody being here the longest out of the group, I feel like he's put in his time, and I just have a little sentimental sentimental love for somebody. When you have two transfers come in over you, I'd like to see him raise his game. And then you got a real good report after the second scrimmage. So hopefully he can use that to springboard himself. And I know that he and Jermaine Burton and really Bryce Young all have that California connection. He and Burton kind of nicknamed themselves the DB assassin. So I don't really have a whole lot of like this is. He's much better. I just think that the guy who's been here this long, I'm hoping for him to get that opportunity.
And that totally makes sense, and that's why I said you very well could see Holden as the guy out there. Interestingly, you have him as the outside receiver, which I see him being more of an outside receiver just because of his size. And I think that Holden is going to be a critical part of this offense because I think we're going to need a big wide receiver. I think we're going to need a guy who can get us some points. Hopefully, we've added that to part of our game to use the big wide receiver, the fade routes and things. Since, O'Brien wants to throw the ball so much at the goal line, maybe he'll use a big wide receiver potentially as that guy. And Holden it probably isn't much smaller than our tight end from last year, Billingsley, who went out to Texas. X, why do you think he's going to be a good fit at the slot? Because typically that's just not the position for a guy that size.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've seen what Cooper Kupp did last year with the Rams. Very similar size. And I think Holden can be that Jaleel Billingsley type role of the big body guy that they put out in the slot that can be a mismatch on linebacker, and he's big enough to bully the DBs that normally line up in the slot.
Okay, so now I'm gonna just push the football conversation a little bit. Go a little deeper. Xavier, I don't think you're describing a 3 wide receiver set though. I think Holden is that guy because a lot of times Kupp was they were in a 4 receiver set, if that makes sense, and they lined Kupp up as one of the inside receivers. And I think that in that scenario, if we go to 4, I think that Holden becomes that tight end because, guys, how confident are you right now that our tight end play is going to be where it needs to be with Latu, coming back? But have you heard his name mentioned at all? And then you have the scenario where Knobloch, they say he's going to be a player, but he's still learning. He doesn't have a good grasp of the offense. So do you see us using more 4 wide receiver, no tight end, especially with Utah State and us being able to probably run the ball without an end man on the line of scrimmage?
I definitely think you can see more 4 wide receiver sets in this case, because that's also part of the reason why you don't know what you have at tight end until the 2 is 100% healthy. So I think you see more of that role. And I think Trayshawn just has a better grasp of the offense than Prentice. Prentice has pop, but does he know the offense as well?
Joe?
Oh, I mean, with a tight end position, I think you might be surprised to see Miles Kitzelman out there with Cameron Latou being kind of questionable. And I do think the Amari Niblack, he might get some run, especially as the game gets going. But if Latou's not healthy, I think Kitzelman will probably be that inline guy, and they'll probably keep it simple, not ask too much of the tight end.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you're absolutely right as far as in-man on the line of scrimmage. When we go to the running game, I think you're going to see a traditional tight end. And the other option there is Oots. I think Oots will be a really, really good, inline a guy. Don't be surprised if we don't see potentially some 3 tight end set in the likes of Georgia with. Those 2 guys plus a Latou in there, some in a 3 tight end set. But I do think that you're going to see Alabama get their best receivers on the field at times. I think you're going to see some five wide sets to compensate for the tight end not being there. Now, here's an interesting question, guys. Curtis is big on Leary. So we have to mention Leary as a guy because he was a guy that popped. He went to running back last year, but he's back at wide receiver. He had moments. Do either one of you seeing a scenario where Leary gets back into that role, possibly even in front of Prentice if we go into a 5 wide set? X?
When you look at Leary, I just haven't heard a lot about him through the fall camp. So I don't know if that means everybody else has just been performing better than him, or if because he had already popped in the spring and things of that nature, nobody has talked about him the way some of these other guys who have been new to the program, Prentice, Harrell, Holden making the move. So that's where I'm looking at that.
Yeah. Joe, I'll give you closing thoughts on that.
I'm hoping, Martin, that especially this week, they're using so many wide receivers that it's hard for us to even determine who's in the first, who's in the second. I mean, outside of obviously the first couple plays, I'm hoping they use the depth at the wide receiver position so much that we kind of get to see a lot of everybody.
Yeah, and of course you have, without a doubt, you have this defense we're going to have to talk about. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of rotation at the wide receiver position. It'll be interesting to see how we get off to an offensive start. Heisman campaign for Bryce Young. Does it take a blow week 1 because of the competition that Alabama's playing, or will he still have that big game? And so as we move throughout this week, that's a great question. Which guy takes the lead between the 3 Alabama guys in the Heisman race based on the competitor? Will it be Bryce Young, Gibbs, or Anderson after week 1 as far as these 3 guys are concerned? Got a lot of options at wide receiver. We'll continue to talk about that as well. Hey, make sure you tune back in tomorrow at the same bat time, same bat channel. That's XNO Sports. Xavier Houston with the Martin Houston Show. That's Joe Gaither. I'm Martin Houston. Remember this: trust in the Lord, always lean not your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Roll Tide out there, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend